Secondhand smoke is a significant public health concern. Exposure to secondhand smoke contributes to approximately 41,000 deaths among non-smoking adults and over 400 deaths in infants each year, as stated by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The California Health Interview Survey 2016 also gives us an idea of how relevant this issue is within Fresno, California. While 11.7% of adults in California smoke cigarettes, 18.6% of Fresno adults smoke cigarettes. Those exposed to secondhand smoke are involuntarily breathing tobacco smoke, which contains toxic chemicals including nicotine, formaldehyde, carbon monoxide, ammonia, hydrogen cyanide, among other chemicals. Being exposed to secondhand smoke can cause detrimental effects such as heart attacks, asthma, lung cancer, and other forms of cancer. Children, the elderly, pregnant women, and those with chronic illnesses are at a greater risk of second-hand smoke health effects. As stated by the National Institute on Drug Abuse, children exposed to secondhand smoke are at an increased risk of ear infections, severe asthma, lung infections, and death from sudden infant death syndrome. Pregnant women are also at a high risk of adverse effects due to secondhand smoke exposure. Complications associated with secondhand smoke exposure for pregnant women include preterm delivery, miscarriage, low birth weight, and sudden infant death syndrome. Maternal secondhand smoke exposure is of high concern because it could potentially harm the expecting mother and child. Secondhand smoke effects may lead to health problems in children because the chemicals breathed in by the mother may cross the placenta and can affect the child's neural development, which can essentially lead to cognitive and behavioral problems. By implementing a tobacco-free policy on the CSU Fresno campus, this will decrease the exposure of secondhand smoke to college students, staff, children, and other individuals who visit the campus. It is important to continue educating staff, students, and visitors about the importance of having a tobacco-free campus and the adverse effects that secondhand smoke exposure can potentially have in one's health.
As college students, this may be the first time away from home for many individuals. During this time, many students are susceptible to be influenced by many different sources that can affect their behavior in a negative way. College students can be influenced by pro-smoking media, for example, such as magazines, commercials, and peers. Being close to proximity to other smokers can also have its influences. Our campus is composed of many age groups that can all be harmed. There are about 2,400 employees that walk the campus every day and can also be affected by secondhand smoke. Fresno State is visited by many groups of people. Grade school children are often visiting the campus and are exposed to secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke is especially concerning in terms of health in relation to the aging population. College campuses are composed of varying ages demographics, including the elderly, which exemplifies the reasoning to why secondhand smoking is such a grave concern for individuals. They tend to have higher prevalence of pre-existing diseases. Although the Chancellor's Office of the CSU system has declared a campus-wide ban of all tobacco use from other campuses throughout California, there are individuals who still use tobacco products. The purpose of this research is to understand how policies set by the CSU system have affected smoking on campus and to determine if further action should be taken to enforce said policies. Results will be presented to those individuals who are in charge of creating new rules and policies for our campus. Thank you.
The research methods that were used to conduct this study were to collect quantitative data. In order to eliminate any type of bias, we collect data over specific times. We collect data after public events. We collect data on regular periods of college activities and so on. For this study, we were assigned the area around the Engineering West. We were given a trash bag for the whole group to put the cigarette butts collected. We were also given one glove to keep the study sanitary. We would search for the cigarette butts around the different areas of the location, including the back of the classrooms, next to trees, by parking lot, and throughout the grass areas. As we found the cigarette butts, we count them and add them to the ones that were already in the trash bag. When we would find a great amount of cigarette butts on a specific area, we were required to take a picture of all the cigarettes with $1 next to them, or a familiar object that is easy to identify by the public. While searching for the cigarette butts, we had to complete the form called Tobacco Litter Observation Form. On the form, we would write down how many cigarette butts were collected and how many cigarettes-related items were collected as well. There were also sections where we had to write down how many trash bags we had collected with tobacco-related items. We did not collect any items that were tobacco-related, and other sections asked if we saw people around the area smoking while we were collecting the cigarette butts. We did not see anyone smoking around the area, but we were surprised to see certain locations with more than expected amounts of cigarette butts. Those areas tend to be hidden in the back near the shaded areas. If a person were to smoke, they would not be seen because they were hidden areas behind the buildings. We were able to see that since people are not allowed to smoke, they tend to hide behind the buildings so that they are not visible to the public of the eye.
The baseline data collected from the Engineering West building concluded that 139 cigarette butts were collected. In 2017, the initiation of the CSU Smoke-Free Campuses was introduced. On August 31, 2017, data collection reported 232 cigarette butts discovered at the same location. On 4/18/18, 281 cigarette butts were collected. In a matter of 6 months, there was an 18% increase in the amount of cigarette remains in one specific location, indicating that the efforts of a smokeless tobacco campus thus far have not only been ineffective, but we have had an increase in overall use of tobacco products on Fresno State campus. This proves ineffective at this time, but more studies need to be conducted to be sure of the results. Bias could have played a role in previous butt collections due to public events such as tailgating or events such as vintage days, etc. We have to conduct various studies before we can give a conclusive idea of the situation we are dealing here at Fresno State University. If the situation does worsen, ticketing for smoking or warnings might be implemented. This reinforces the notion that there is no immediate concern with regard to punishment for the use of cigarettes and/or smokeless tobacco products on the Fresno State campus. If rules or regulations for tobacco are implemented, we will conduct more studies and once again compare results to an idea of what works better here at Fresno State University. Our results could potentially help other CSU campuses combat the problem of cigarette smoking within the university system.
In conclusion, cigarette smoking is now one of the leading preventable causes of premature death in the United States. And even though smoking has declined, it is estimated by the NIDA that smoking leads to about 480,000 deaths yearly. Smoking is a drug that harms almost every organ in the body, such as the heart, lungs, and brain. Smokers aged 60 and over double their mortality rate compared to those who have never smoked and decrease their lifespan by an estimated 6 years. We have to keep in mind that the population in college campuses is very diverse. When this drug is used, it does not only affect the individual smoker, it can affect anyone in close proximity range to the smoker, thus giving them secondhand smoke exposure. Secondhand smoke exposure is of great concern, which is why we are taking action with the method of collecting cigarette butts over certain periods of time to estimate the impact of making CSU campuses smoking free. While they are already smoking free, this will allow us to make an estimation of the difference. Over the time, this will allow us to implement new rules or stricter regulations depending on the future results. Because there is a very diverse population of children, college students, and elderly here at Fresno State and in most college universities, it is necessary for health educators to take action and combat the problem. More studies need to be done to have a better idea of the current situation we are dealing with at our college campuses, but we can always spread awareness and promote better and healthier living lifestyle.